Hello everybody, it's Peter with an I, S-T-A-W-A-R-T. And welcome to segment 47 of...
I don't know, the Dark Tower, I guess?
What he said. Nancy knew it could be an ambulance speeding from the clinic to an emergency, or it could be the dentist coming after them with the first automobile he could find. Nancy slowed to let them pass, but she sure wasn't going to stop. There were 3 lanes. They could pass if they wanted to. The ambulance passed quickly, but they knew immediately they were in trouble when the red and white van moved ahead of them and started to slow down. The flashing lights on top indicated it was an official vehicle with special rights on the road, but these special rights didn't include the right to pull them over. It would be like a PUD truck trying to pull them over by turning on their yellow cup lights, or a taxi cab trying to pull them over by turning on their in-service lamp. If all rooftop lights automatically gave drivers the authority to pull people over, drivers would always be getting pulled over by the pizza delivery cars. Drivers would hardly need to crane their necks to look up at the acne-faced teenage delivery drivers wearing their flour-stained orange and green Pizza Dungeon uniforms, with their first name misspelled on their official plastic rectangle badge. "Can I see your license and registration?" they would ask before swaggering back to their Geo Metro to sit and eat pizza with their headlights drilling into the back of the drivers' heads for 15 to 20 minutes. Upon their return, they would give them back their license and issue them a coupon. Nancy temporarily clutched the wheel firmly with one hand and hammered on the gas as she swerved into the next lane to pass them. Some of the hot coffee that Joe was trying to pour into his cup spilled onto his lap. In the ambulance, the medic knew better than to attempt to block her. The paint covering the automobile he was operating was worth more than the skin covering his body. "Get ahead of them before the 3-lane road ends," ordered security guard Lewis as he set his clipboard on the dash in front of him. The medic nodded as he continued repeating vows of love over the phone to his girlfriend.
Are you telling me lies?
"Really, sweetheart?"
Don't lie to me.
"No,
Do you mean it?
I mean it.
Do you really mean it?
I really do.
Are you sure?
I really do.
Do you mean it?
I really do.
Do you mean it?
Uh-huh.
Are you telling me lies?
Yes, sweetheart.
Are you telling me lies?
Anything you say." He had to take a pause to look out the rear window. He jerked to one side, and when he did, he realized how badly he had misjudged the distance of the kid's car. In the rearview mirror, they were closer than they appeared. Both he and Nancy sucked in a breath at how close they had gotten to scratching the painted fender, which, for some strange reason, would cost more money to replace than the automobile. All of them knew that if there was any damage, they would be doomed. The increase in car insurance alone would bury them.
Are you telling me lies?
Yes, I'm here, honey, continued the driver. His girlfriend was crying, saying that he never listened to her and that he wasn't sensitive to her needs. The tires of both automobiles gave a little screech as they grabbed the asphalt around the curve of the 2-lane road. If it was wet outside, they would have landed in the ditch. Joe Winston pulled the mug away from his face, kept it steady in one hand, but remained cognizant of the sub-sandwich he held in the other. The salami and cheese, which was lubricated with drippy mayonnaise, was threatening to spill out onto his lap. "Watch what you're doing, Nancy," he said, turning his sandwich skyward to keep in the packing. Nancy was too preoccupied finding the right station on the radio to hear him. She looked up for a moment from the dial, just in time to miss an oak tree. No big deal. The bigger problem was that the radio just wouldn't adjust. The ambulance hung back from them. The driver needed the extra response time while he searched for the redial button on his cell. His phone couldn't have picked a worse time to cut out on him. After all, He was in the middle of a serious conversation. "Watch out!" yelled security guard Jordan. The driver had been looking at the road out of the corner of his eye, but he didn't see the upcoming curve. He jerked the wheel, consequently steering away from the sturdy oak, which was no big deal. But he nearly dropped his phone on the floor. "Oh gosh," said security guard Lewis, as the clipboard he placed on the smooth dashboard sailed to the side with such force it hit the window. Fortunately, it didn't break the glass. To prevent something like that from happening again, he rolled down the window. He returned the clipboard to the smooth dash, along with a loose deck of cards and a jar of marbles. Once the medic got his girlfriend back on the phone, he bared his teeth and sped up. Security guard Jordan looked around for a seatbelt. "I can't believe there's no seatbelt in an ambulance," he complained. He needed to stay alive through this. If not for himself, then for his 5+ illegitimate children he might never see again. By the way, he'd never actually seen them in person, only their mugshots on wanted posters.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a moment to applaud a great guy. Ladies and gentlemen, security guard Jordan.
"Will you find a cool radio station?" asked Nancy, knowing how dangerous it was that her full attention wasn't on the road. Joe put his coffee cup on the dash so he could turn the dial. The radio didn't have a lighted display because it was so cheap. It was safer to have an inexpensive stock radio in there, because if they had an expensive stereo system, one of security guard Jordan's children would take it. Chapter 46. Their chase brought them to another straightaway. The ambulance sped up. All of them knew that this might be their only shot at stopping the other car in a timely manner, or else they would be driving around all night, and Nancy and Joe would get away because the security guards were only allowed to work so much overtime before they had to call it quits.
"Well, I'll see you later, Al."
Yep, I'll see you, Fred.
And the driver wasn't trained to detain anybody. The only thing medics are trained to do is keep accident victims alive until they're delivered to the hospital. Or if they come from LA, they're trained to keep each other alive along with the victims on their way back to the hospital. "Oh," said Nancy, surprised. She had shifted to 5th gear, and the car ran a lot better. They were now side by side, and their passing zone was quickly coming to an end. Nancy couldn't get the car to go fast enough, and started sinking behind. In an attempt to gain speed, she took off the parking brake, and now they were head to head. After a huff and a shake of the head, Nancy let off the gas. "What are you doing?" asked Joe. "This is too dangerous," she said. She was aware of how deadly a crash would be. She learned how to drive from her Uncle Teddy, who was known for his harsh lessons. To demonstrate how incredibly fast 20 miles an hour was, he had Frank stand by the side of an old grade road, which was the only usable straightaway near his cabin aside from the highway. He used Frank for the demonstration because Joe couldn't be found. Joe was smart. He had Frank stand with his hand raised, off-center of the logging road a javelin's toss away. With the car aimed in his direction and the motor running, Nancy wondered how, exactly, Uncle Teddy was going to demonstrate the brute force of a 20-mile-an-hour accident. The question had also crossed Frank's mind. It didn't take long to get up to 20 miles per hour. After all, 20 miles an hour is mistakenly considered a slow speed. It sure wasn't slow to Frank, who wondered if he should just give up, forfeit that round of Simon Says, and just run away. As the car passed at this slow speed, he had Nancy give Frank a high five. The pain was excruciating for both of them.